This tip was inspired by a post that we had in the community. A user has a course that is set to restricted mode in their player. So we're going to come into that because I just want to show you what I mean by that. So here under menu, we're going to come into additional options here. And we've got these options for navigation. By default, Storyline will be free navigation, but you can certainly change it to either restricted or locked. Restricted just means that each slide is going to be locked until the learner has gone through the previous slide and unlocked the next one. Once they've done that, then they are able to navigate freely in the course once they've unlocked everything. But in this particular course example, the user wanted to be able to have a pre-test. So they wanted their learners to be able to take a test. If they passed it, then they've completed the requirements for the course. But they want their learners to be able to go back and review any content that they wanted to review. So what we need to do is unlock all of these slides. That way the learner can be able to access everything totally unrestricted. But how do we go about doing that? So let's come back in here. And what we're going to do is right now what I've got set up is I've got this pre-test, I've got some content slides here, and then I have a quiz results slide. I just have that on another scene here, but it doesn't need to be set up like that. So I've got my quiz results. What's going to happen is if we take the pretest, which let's take an example here. If we take the pretest and we get it right, we're going to jump to our quiz results slide. If we get it wrong, then we're going to get access to that first slide of content. Let's take a look here. So excellent question here, obviously true. So we'll hit true here. And then we're going to hit continue on our correct layer here, and that's going to take us to our quiz results slide. Now, if I get this wrong, so let's go back, let's replay this. If I get this wrong, then I'm going to get the incorrect layer and then move on in my course. All right, so what do I need to do to make this happen that I can unrestrict all of these slides for my learners if we pass the test? So one thing I need to be able to do is figure out if the course needs to be unlocked or locked. And the way I'm going to do that is by use of a variable. So we're going to come in here, we're going to add a new variable, and we're going to call that our unlock course variable. This is going to be a true-false variable because it's either able to be unlocked or not. So by default, we're going to leave it at false. And then what I need to do is be able to access each of these slides in a rather quick manner. The way I'm going to do that is by adding a trigger on the slide master layer. What this will do is this will be added to every slide that's using this master. So for example, in this particular course, all my content slides are using this master. The only ones that aren't are my question slide and the quiz results slide. It doesn't have to be like that, but that's just the way I've got it set up. So here we're going to come in, we're going to add a trigger that's going to be jump to next slide when timeline starts on this slide. Very important condition here, if our variable, and I think the webinar is cutting that off, so I apologize. If our unlock course variable is set to true. We've got our trigger here to access all of our slides. Now I'm going to come in to my quiz results slide here. And I want to make sure I'm on the success layer. I don't want this to appear on either the false or the base layer for this. So I want to make sure I'm on my success layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a button because I need a way to be able to trigger these actions here. So I'm going to add a button. And then let's just call this unlock. Now I could add any sort of icons that I want to this, but I've got my unlock button here. So let's go in. We're going to add a trigger here that's going to take us back to our first course slide. So we're going to jump to the welcome course slide here when the user clicks on the button number 2. All right, so let's take a look at how this is looking. All right, so we'll pass our pretest here. We're at our quiz results. I'm going to unlock. That's going to take me back to that first slide, but I haven't actually set a way to change my variable from false to true. So that's why everything is still not unlocked here. So let's go back and we're going to add another trigger to this button, and that's going to be a change and adjust variable trigger here. And we're going to adjust our unlock course trigger. We're going to set that to true when the user clicks that button. All right, so I do want to point out that it's really, really important to pay attention to your trigger order here. In this case, the way the triggers are set up, this is not going to work as expected, because what's going to happen is Storyline is going to first jump to this slide, and it's never going to actually update that variable. So what I need to do is I need to have that variable change first and then jump to my slide. So let's preview this. And this is honestly my favorite part. I kind of feel a little like David Copperfield here, because we're going to get this right. We're going to come in, we're going to hit this unlock button, and magic's going to happen. And that is all of our slides are being unlocked. And that's because when we get to each slide, it's triggering that trigger on the master slide layer. It's on that master slide saying move to the next slide when the timeline starts. And so as we move to each slide, we're unlocking them as we go forward. So that's what's happening there. But what I would probably want to have happen is get back to the very beginning of my course. So let's go ahead and exit out of this. And what I'm going to do now is I want to add another slide here. So let's we're just going to do a basic layout. We want to make sure that we're pulling a layout from the right slide here, and that's going to be our illuminate slide. I'm going to come in here, and now I need to do two things. One, I need to switch that trigger back to false when it hits this slide. So let's do that. So we're going to adjust our variable to false when timeline starts. Again, I think that's cut off. I apologize. On this slide. All right, so we've got that, and now we need our trigger to get us back to that top slide. Again, pay attention to your trigger order here because we want to make sure that this variable is actually being changed to false before we jump to the next slide, or else you're going to have a rapid review session of your slide content as it just keeps looping through all of the slides. But here, let's come in and preview this. All right, so we're going to get this true. Come in. Now take a look at what happens when we click the unlock button. So we're going to go through all of our courses, and then we're going to come back up to that welcome slide. A couple of things that I would probably do here. One, on that, I would probably have a trigger that would not allow that blank slide to be accessible if the variable is set to false. And I would definitely hide it here in my menu. I wouldn't want this slide to be showing up in my menu. Another thing that I would probably do is I would probably have some sort of slide that's acknowledging the fact that our learners that this unlock process is going to happen. There's some different fun things that you could do with that. To me, it kind of looks like you've unlocked a cheat code in a video game. You know, it goes through and it unlocks everything. So maybe you could, depending on how your course is set up, what type of, if it's formal or more casual. If it's more casual course, I would totally be like, you know, congratulations, you've unlocked review mode, and then have it go through. But those are just a couple things, but that's just how you can set it up that your learners can access slides to review if they've passed the pretest.